how important for a bass player, for you especially, is to have a similar vision in mind with a drummer? I mean,
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your drummer is your best friend. He's your only friend in the rhythm section where there's a three-piece, because a guitar player is not your friend. Sorry, guitar players, but you know, guitar players are out in a world of their own, and the rhythm section is actually creating the background. So I think it's really important that the bass player and drummer respect each other and listen to each other and try to find a way to make each other sound better. And that's what Neil and I try to do. We try to make each other sound better by pushing each other. When I write the song in an initial stage, I'll do a sketch on bass, and then Neil takes it away and he adds his drum vision to it. And then we go back and forth to try to smooth that out so that we're on the same page and that we're working together and not against each other.
And it was this there from the very first beginning on, or did you have to learn how the other part, how Neil thinks, and how has Neil to learn how your visions are? I mean, was it a kind of process?
It was a process,
yeah.
But I think there initially was a great desire to do that. We didn't know how to do it, but we wanted to do it, and we wanted to know how to do it. So I think you have to have that equal desire to accomplish that thing. And then over time, we play so many times together that after a while we look at each other and we can kind of communicate. Like I can just feel instinctively where he's going, and he knows what I'm going to do. And we have this great, you know, commonality, this simpatico.
And by the way, is this something that changes during the eras? I mean, is it a kind of ups and downs that on the one record you feel more comfortable with the way he's playing, the next record you think, oh, it could be better, or is it a constant flow, a constant move?
No, there's nothing constant in life, you know, everything goes like this, you know, so sometimes he's in a different space, sometimes he's playing more jazzy than I am, sometimes I'm, you know, in some other different space for him, so it's always, communication is necessary, you know, you just have to talk about it, and you have to make sure you're communicating. You know, it's like anything, any partnership in life. I don't care if it's your marriage or if it's your bass player and your drummer, or you know, or if it's your manager, whatever. Nothing is going to move forward unless you're talking about it. And so that's for us is really important.
And is a band like Rush reflecting every show? Are you sitting together after every show and discuss about what was good, what was not so good, what have to be more tight, whatever?
Yeah, in our own way we do. We don't have a big meeting, but after the first set, for example, you know, we'll come in to dry off in our intermission, and you know, if somebody was having difficulty with something, we'll talk about it, or if something was great, if the tempo was fantastic, I'll go up to Neil and say, wow, the tempo tonight in Secret Touch was just, wow, it's just perfectly that right attitude of, you know, back on the beat but moving forward, you know. So we'll talk about little things like that, and you don't have to say much, you know. It's just either a confirmation or you know, sometimes you'll go, look, I'm having a problem with this one section, can we work on it and sound check tomorrow? Maybe I'm not hearing what you're doing properly. And that'll happen, like, even though we're 4.5 months, 5 months into this tour, just the other day we realized something about one part of one song that we were not in sync with. And so we talked about it. The next day he tried something different on drums and it worked perfectly with my bass part. Or, you know, it was one thing I was doing, I fell into a bad habit in the song YYZ, for example. I fell into a bad habit at the end of one run, and I was dropping a note without realizing it. And then I listened back to some of our tapes and realized that there's a note missing there. And so we discussed it. The next day I started doing it again. So yeah, we're always helping each other. Alex and I talk a lot about tempo too. For certain songs when he starts the guitar by himself, you know, he's got no meter, and you know, Neil has his own built-in clock, but sometimes Alex will feel, you know, every day you feel different. You know, I find if it's a day where you're traveling a lot, you come out on stage and you play faster. I don't know why. It's just maybe your whole body is not settled. And some days you're more relaxed and the tempo is more relaxed. So those are little things we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
They're not big things.
Yeah.
Little
Geddy, I got it right. You see yourself mainly as a bass player.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit how you're feeling to the keyboard, to the...
My keyboard playing is very rudimentary. It's very basic, yeah. I really have not progressed as a keyboard player. And I consider myself as a synthesist more than a keyboard player. Because technically I'm not very good. So it's more sound, it's more texture for me. And I've lost a lot of interest in the keyboards over the years. So for me, the keyboards that popped up now are always songs in the past, not of the last few albums.
Any reason for that?
Yeah, I just rather play bass. You know, I love playing my bass, and I feel like I've been developing a better attitude on the bass over the last few albums, and there's a style of play that I'm really enjoying, a more rhythmic style of play, and I'd rather do that. So I don't want to be distracted by having to go to the keyboards. If there's a keyboard sound or a keyboard part or a string part, I'm happy to add it with my feet, but I'd much rather play the bass. I love playing bass.
You never thought about having a tour keyboarder with you?
Yeah, we have thought about it, but we think our fans would be unhappy to see someone else up there. So we'd rather be like these crazy foot guys, you know. Instead of hiring a person, we hired synthesizers and sequencers and samplers, and we wrestle with that stuff every night.
Yeah.
And that makes it more of a performance, and it actually makes it more of a challenge. And it's impossible to get bored up there.
By the way, do you remember the very first equipment you played when Rush started?
Yeah. I had a Kenora bass. And it was Japanese made bass, and I had an amp by Trainer, a Canadian company.
Any idea what happened to that after you sold it, or you lost it, or it was stolen?
I don't know where they are now. Probably in the garbage somewhere.
And today, the equipment of today, since when do you play it, and what were the criteria why you chose it?
Well, I mean, I play mostly Fender jazz basses, and I have this 1972 jazz bass with blonde neck, which I love, and it has a very different sound than any other jazz bass I've ever used. I don't know if there's something wrong with it, but whatever it is, I love it. And then I work with the Fender people, and the custom shop has made me some other basses that also sound fantastic. That's my real love to play right now, is the jazz basses. And as far as amplification goes, I use a system of different kinds of direct boxes, and I use an Avalon tube direct box, and I use a Sansamp RPM preamp, which I use for distortion and for twang, and I use a Palmer speaker simulator, which gives me a really great bottom end sound. So I use all those devices, and I don't use any speakers at all.
All right. Since when do you?
Oh, a long time now. I keep tweaking the different Sansamp products. This is the first year I've used the RPM. It's a newer product, and I like it a lot. But I haven't been using amps on stage for, I don't know, quite a few tours now.
All right.
Probably certainly since Test for Echoes.
All right. Do you have also 5-string basses in your collection, or just?
I have a wall 5-string bass that I used years ago in the I guess late 80s. I used it.
But you didn't feel
not for me.
All right.
I have enough trouble with 4. I don't need the extra string.